In this video, I'm going to dive a little bit more into psychographics and behavior because we learned that there is a link between those two. And we know that psychographics is all about psychology and the mind and the personal identity and all that stuff. And behavior is linked with that as well. So I want to go into a few different concepts that we can learn that helps us understand why people have the psychographics that they have and why they make the decisions or have the behavior that they do. So I'm going to start with something called Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. And you'll learn about this in psychology classes, you learn about it in business classes, you learn about it all over the place. And essentially what it is, it's a theory of motivation. It answers the question, why do people do what they do? Okay? And essentially says that people think and act based upon their needs. And as basic needs are met, people move more towards what are called growth needs. So here is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Usually you'll see it in a pyramid, like a hierarchy. And usually you start at the bottom and you move your way up the pyramid. So people usually have to start at physiological needs. So those are things like air, water, food, shelter, sleep, all that stuff. Things we literally need to survive, right? We start there, and that's what motivates us to do what we do. And then we would move up into safety needs. Things like personal security, things like employment too, because those keep us financially safe, health, property, all that stuff. So now that we have our basic needs met, we can essentially secure those basic needs by keeping our health safe, our personal security, our finances safe, so that we feel safe. And then from there, we can move on to our love and belonging needs, or sometimes you'll see the word social in there, social needs. So these are things like friendship and family, intimacy, having that sense of connection with other people. And then after that, you get to esteem needs. And this is all about your own personal self. So getting your own, self-esteem up. It could also be about status and recognition from other people, right? Having that prestige or maybe being viewed in a positive light from other people. But it also includes things like self-respect and respect from other people, strength, all of those kind of esteem needs. And then lastly, at the very top is something called self-actualization. And this is, as it says here, the desire to become the most that one can be. So this is really just being your best self. Okay? So this is what Maslow originally said. He said that you start at the bottom, and as you get those needs satisfied, you work your way up. He did later write another paper that said, he kind of clarified that this isn't 100% of the time the way it goes. Some people might prioritize esteem needs above love and belonging needs, for example, right? Or some people might prioritize esteem even over safety needs, right? We see that a lot with finances. People will buy very expensive things to get that reputation, even though they can't afford it, right? So there is some give and take there. But as we're marketing and we're looking at our target markets and different market segments, this is something we can think about as well. What do our consumers want versus what do they need? Maybe they want those esteem needs, but what they actually need is the safety needs or something like that, right? So it's just something we can think about that helps us really dive into people's psychographics. Lastly, to tie this all together with behavior is something called the 80-20 rule. In statistics, it's called the Pareto Principle. Pareto? I don't know how to pronounce it. But it's commonly known as the 80-20 rule. 80%, 20%. And essentially, when we apply that to marketing, what it says is that 80% of a company's revenue comes from 20% of its customers. So again, we see that word revenue. That means all the money that is generated by our business, by our sales, right? So we're not taking into consideration expenses. It's not the same as profit yet. It's just literally the accumulation of all the money that we make. That's what revenue means. So 80% of that, 80% of our sales, for in another way to word this, 80% of our sales comes from 20% of our customers. And the reason why that is because those 20% of our customers are the most loyal and the most active buyers. They buy the most and the most frequently from us. And there's this term in marketing called lifetime value. And it's essentially a way to try and quantify how much money a specific customer will spend for us, like on our business, on our products, in their life. Yeah, there's a mathematical equation. I'm not going to go over it, but just know that there is like an actual metric that tries to track that. Okay? And this is essentially a graph of the 80-20 principle. And again, you can see that word up here, Pareto chart. So we see two things. We see a bar chart in here. The bar charts are essentially tracking how much sales we have with each of these different countries. And then what the line represents is the cumulative total, right? So for example, we can see France here makes about, I don't know, I'm just going to call this $900,000 in sales, right? So they will, if we look on the curve here and go over to the right, that's about 38% of our sales coming just from France. Okay, somewhere around there, right? And then as we move on, let's just say the Philippines is more down here. The Philippines will be at around 200,000, and the change in the running total of our sales, it will slowly increase until it reaches 100% when we take into consideration every single country. So what the 80-20 rule says is if we look at 20% of our customers, so let's just say 20% happens to be these three countries, I'm not sure. But let's just say it's these three countries, France, Philippines, and South Africa. They should land us at around 80% of our business, which is pretty dang close right here. 80% is here. So if we look there, yeah, we've got France, Philippines, and South Africa. Those 20% of our customers are giving us 80% of our business, and the rest are all these other countries, the rest of the 80% of our customers. So that's why it's very important to choose the right target market, because the right target market is going to be those 20% of the people. And we really want to make sure that we keep them loyal so we can increase their lifetime value and just really keep them as good customers.